South Africa is the continent's largest and most developed economy, but since the 2009 recession, it's been enduring sluggish growth. I'm here with Pravin Gordhan, the Finance Minister, to discuss the economic outlook for the country, but also some of the global issues that are impacting on emerging markets. Thank you very much for your time, Minister. In recent months, the South African rand has been caught up in the turmoil we've seen in emerging market currencies. That was partly triggered by the potential for the US Federal Reserve to begin tapering its assets purchase program. Now, that's been delayed. What does that mean for emerging markets like South Africa?
Well, clearly, we are, as South Africa and as the emerging markets, part of an interconnected and interdependent world, and one which capital flows don't respect boundaries, and where the rapidity of the flow of capital into and out of countries introduces all sorts of volatilities, both in a global sense, but also in a country sense. Secondly, we're also living in this world where there are dominant economies and there are middle-income economies like our own in all parts of the world. And one of the lessons that we have learned since 2008-9 and the Lehman moment is that if there are crises in the advanced economies, we as the emerging markets can't decouple from them. And if there are crises now, we are learning in the bigger emerging market economies, the advanced economies can't decouple from them. So in the kind of context where QE was necessary for domestic reasons, which we understand, and it now needs to be tapered also for domestic reasons, one of the lessons of the last 3 months is that domestic considerations alone can't be the determinant of the tapering process.
Does that mean then that the Fed, when it does begin tapering, because tapering will happen, does that mean that the Fed has to do things differently next time?
Well, it's already started doing things differently, I believe, and the discussions in the G20 process have been extremely useful to bring about a better understanding, one of the Fed's imperatives, but also the imperatives of emerging markets. So the communication, A, is going to be clearer. B, there's an understanding that we require careful calibration. And thirdly, as much as is possible, to create a climate of certainty and predictability. At the same time, the flip side of that coin is that we as emerging markets need now to be aware of our own vulnerabilities in this kind of climate and do that which is necessary to prepare ourselves now through global cooperation, but also understand that in the longer term, we need to build up stronger defenses. But equally,
what are those defenses, and what do emerging markets do?
Managing our fiscal deficits better, managing our debt better, creating greater confidence in our economies and their growth prospects. Now, the context, however, is not a very helpful one, where the global narrative is about a downward spiral of growth. And what the leaders of the G20 managed to do at St. Petersburg is to get agreement amongst themselves that we need a different narrative, a narrative that focuses on inclusive growth, focuses on job creation, particularly for young people, and focuses on, through the St. Petersburg Action Plan, if you like, rebalancing exercise in which all of us have got to give and take in order to get the right kind of global balance.
Because the last time we spoke, you said particularly around Fed tapering, there needed to be greater coordination among international policymakers to deal with these issues of turbulence and better manage capital flows and what's created in terms of turbulence globally.
The message has got across, but I think the global financial system is way ahead of our global either cooperative system or the governance system. One of the interesting ideas floated by Professor Michael Spence in a recent article is to upgrade the role of the IMF and to enable the IMF, on the one hand, to help us to manage the coordination process, but on the other hand, enable and help countries to manage the shocks from unconventional monetary policy being unwound. Hopefully, the conversations in Washington during the annual meetings will provide us with yet another opportunity to explore how do we actually achieve better coordination and minimize the kind of shock effects of individual country decisions.
Okay. There's some of the global issues. Domestically, the outlook for South Africa isn't looking too positive at the moment. I mean, growth looks as though it'll be around 2% this year, and the current account deficit has just widened for the second quarter. How concerned are you about the economic outlook for South Africa now?
No, I think we've if you like, bottomed out of it. Our plus percent is still going to be better than anything Europe is producing at this point in time. It's better than Brazil's performance last year. The only problem for us is that we have a huge historical deficit in terms of job creation and social inequities. And therefore, we require higher levels of growth, higher levels of job creation, and to sustain our social wage through the fiscal system, including supporting the economy. We also have a huge strength, which is the African continent itself, and being the biggest economy, but also in respect of the financial and other sectors, being the most developed economy as well, helps us to both uplift our neighbors and uplift ourselves.
Great. Well, thank you very much for your time, Minister.
Thank you.